edition of Blurb TV. I'm Andrew Garda. We got a new angle thing going on here. We've got a house full of sick people, so I'm trying to do this in such a way to where it doesn't bother them and they don't kill me. Speaking of killing, the Jets are not making a killing with their PSLs right now. We're looking at, I believe at last report, about 10,000 unsold PSLs. A lot of time between, of course, now and May and the beginning of the season. But I wanted to bring this up, not just because as a Jet fan I'm concerned and everybody around here is worried about blackouts, but I thought this was a good place to talk a little bit about sort of the disconnect I see between an awful lot of sports franchises, NFL and otherwise, and the average fan. You know, PSLs, it's a cost of doing business. More privately owned and privately financed stadiums means you need to have a return on your investment quicker. You can't wait for all the concessions and all of those things to pay off. PSLs is a way to do it. However, when I go to Jet games, and I talk to a lot of people who have had seats, field level, other places for 5 years, 10 years, generations sometimes. And these are people who cannot afford the PSLs that are $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 just to buy a ticket. I have to say that there's something not right about that. There's some sort of disconnect between the NFL and the average fan. And as much as TV money and other things drive the NFL, so does the average fan. And this is something I saw when I was in Los Angeles, back when the Staples Center opened, when the Lakers and the woeful Clippers and the LA Kings, yes, there's a hockey team somewhere in Los Angeles, when they moved into this just fantastic, beautiful new stadium that the average fan couldn't afford to sit rink or, for the most part, courtside, and were relegated to the upper deck. And, there's something to be said for the upper deck. I've always been a fan of being up there, great class of fans, interesting energy, but when it comes down to it, being close to the action is a big deal, and it's no different in the new Jets and Giants stadium. And whereas I understand they need to make their money and they need to make their money back sooner than later, I do wonder long term if the effects this is going to have is to price the average fan out and what that may do to the atmosphere at games. I do understand that the NFL is going to make their money on jerseys and DirecTV and all of those things that we're all probably going to still buy whether we go to the games or not. The vast majority of us don't go to every game. If you look at jersey sales, we know that every sold jersey isn't someone who went to a game. The math doesn't work out. But there's an energy to having the average fan in an arena or in a stadium and able to be, close enough to the action to, in some ways, put forth an effect on the game. Going back to the Laker thing, when I went to Laker games, one of the biggest complaints people had is that you couldn't hear the crowd noise. Now, part of that was just stupid acoustics. When they designed the stadium, they adjusted it, made a big difference now. But having 3 floors of luxury boxes between courtside and the upper deck filled with the most passionate fans, I don't know, that's going to have an effect. And I think it's not much different with the NFL. And bringing it back to the Jets for a minute, I don't begrudge them trying to make their money back as soon as possible, but the Jets have the perception, at least, right or wrong, is that the Jets fan tends to be a blue-collar, hard-working, not a ton of extra cash guy. Now, you could argue that anyone who's buying season tickets to any NFL game probably has a decent amount of cash, but it's not necessarily the truth. And right or wrong, the Giants fans have always been looked upon as the white-collar corporate group, and the Jets fans always looked at the blue-collar people. And those are the people who aren't going to be able to make the stadium, who aren't going to be able to make those $10,000, forget the $15,000 and $20,000, but $10,000 just to buy the right to buy a ticket is an awful lot to ask of these fans. And I wonder if short term we're looking at financial gains sacrificing long term, which could be fan loyalty. It's awfully hard to really sell yourself year after year to go and sell out to be there for a game when you can't afford it. And that's not even including parking. That's not including all of the money that you have to spend on food. And with tailgate restrictions coming out, it takes away, I think, a lot of the event of the game. I talked to a friend of mine who lives down in Maryland and says that while the PSL thing doesn't resonate the same way, but the pricing of the average fan out of the Baltimore Ravens is something that hit close home to people he knew as well. So this isn't just a Jet fan thing. And for every owner like Jerry Jones who finds a way to make money outside of, booking rock concerts and stuff by having stadium tours, by renting out locker rooms to fantasy drafts, stuff like that, there are, I think, a lot more owners who don't think outside the box like that. And I think what we're seeing here with the Jets is a push to try and sell tickets almost traditionally with these PSLs, and it's not working. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And long term, not just this year, not even just next year, but years from now, what effect this has on the relationship between the NFL and the fan. And let's be honest, most powerful sports industry in America is the NFL. But we've watched the Major League Baseball schism happen, and they were the most powerful sports agency in America at one point. We watched the NHL irrevocably destroy their relationship to some of their fans with their strike, and we've seen some friction between the NBA and its fans. And so it's not that much of a stretch to think that if something doesn't happen down the road, the NFL could see a problem, be it, rise up more when the work stoppage may or may not happen. Hopefully it won't. If PSLs keep going up, if stadiums keep becoming more and more expensive to get to. We're already priced out of the Super Bowl. We're already priced out of an awful lot of average games. At what point will the effect be that fans stop caring? Hopefully it won't come to that point. We have our DirecTV. We have our wonderful living rooms, and we could tailgate there. But being at the game is an entirely different thing. And it's the one thing that college football will always have over the NFL, is they will never price their fans out of the arena, out of the stadium, because their fans are the college fans, and a PSL of 500 is too much for them. College football gets it by virtue of the fact that they can't not get it. The NFL has more power. Hopefully they don't overreach and overstretch their bounds a little bit. Be interesting to see how this works out. Anyway, thank you for joining me. We're not going to have a Thunder and Blurb football show this week, but I'll be back next week with more audio content as well as another Blurb TV and more written contact at thunderandblurb.com. I want to head over to footballguys.com. You get my fantasy takes. And, of course, you can always follow me on Twitter. Just follow at @ThunderingBlurb. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you guys with a probably wider camera angle next week.
For more shows, articles, and podcasts like this one, check out thunderingblurb.com.